everyone, welcome back to the Laura Show. As you can see, I'm in a new surrounding today, and no, this is not my new permanent space or area. It's because I have not one, but two incredible guests here with me today, and so we needed to expand our set, and so I'm actually back at my brokerage headquarters in one of the boardrooms, and I just wanted to have this great conversation. Obviously, we talked earlier about having just one of you come, but now that I know the real story of what's going on with your company, this totally makes sense. So Yasmin and Whitney, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here.
I want to start, normally I start my podcast with going like back to the beginning and then leading up to where we are now, but I actually think it's prudent this time to start with where we are today. I would like you guys maybe to touch on what your business is. I'll let you guys do the announcing of it, and then we'll kind of work our way backwards. So what are you guys up to these days? What's the company?
So I guess if we're working backwards, so we have a company called Jems, and we are a company that is about body-safe ingredients that's focused on including everybody. So we have a condom that's 100% natural latex, 100% silicone lube. We're also launching a lubricant this summer that's the same. It's just 100% silicone lube, the highest ingredients possible. We call it the safer sex lube because it decreases abrasions, which can lead to STIs.
Okay.
And in general, we're about putting out content into the world that is more representative than typical condom brands and sort of other things in that industry have typically done.
So the reason why I let you guys kind of touch on what it is you do, because a lot of my viewers and listeners are probably real estate agents, not necessarily exclusively, and they're probably thinking like, what is going on? We're talking about condoms now? Yeah, we're talking about condoms now. And I came across your company a couple months ago when I first decided I wanted to start a podcast, and I knew that I wanted to talk with women who were career-oriented, trying to juggle it all, and just really share those amazing stories of obstacles and things that you all have to overcome. And I don't really know how, maybe your name was on a list that like I was doing some research, or I found you on Instagram, I'm not really sure, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, this brand is so cool. I've never really seen anything like this before. And so I just knew I had to have you on. And so I was kind of harassing you guys for a while. I gotta be honest. I was like, I'm gonna get these ladies. And it's all about the follow-up. So as real estate agents, see follow-up, follow-up, follow-up. It works because now I have you guys both here. So again, thanks so much. Why? Why did we start a condom company?
Well, Whitney actually was in the condom aisle between pregnancies, and she called me to ask me what type of condom I used. And the truth is, I hadn't thought about it. I couldn't name any specific brand or condom that was preferable. And we realized there was a major gap in this industry. It had not reinvented itself in way too long. It was not speaking to anyone that we could clearly identify, and it was just steeped in toxic stereotypes and this old notions of sex and sexuality and performance and masculinity. And we realized that, as conscious consumers, Whitney's actually celiac, so she's really concerned about ingredients and making sure that everything she eats or uses is gluten-free, and we realized this was an industry that didn't have enough transparency, didn't have enough education, and we really wanted to tackle it and flip it upside down.
So I love that so much because it's not like, we were talking off air about, it's not like you guys had sex education and you were doing that for careers, or it's not like you had some like passion for condoms or anything like that. But just from your day-to-day business, like doing what you're doing, you're at Shoppers Drug Mart or whatever it is, you're at the store, and you just realize like, hey, here's a great idea. Here's what I find so interesting, because I speak with a lot of people, and there's great ideas all over the place. I say the path to mediocrity is paved with great ideas, right? Because most people just don't take action.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Right.
Like I have a new idea every day. I'm like, oh, this would make my clothes fit easier. This would be a better bra, but I don't really do anything. So now I kind of want to work backwards. So you're in the aisle. And you're like, I don't know, I'm in between pregnancies, so that that kind of makes sense, because you probably hadn't been using condoms, to get a little personal for quite some time, and now all of a sudden you're thrown back into this into this time where you're thinking, I want to space out my kids, but I don't want to go back on any other type of contraception, right? So we're back in the aisle, we're using condoms. My guess is, because I haven't been in that aisle now for some time, as my audience knows, I've been struggling with infertility issues, so definitely haven't been down the condom aisle for a while. But from what I can remember, I mean, it's all black packaging. It's supersized magnums, like all this like very male dominated, focused on men buying the condoms as well, right? And having men feel good and boosting up their ego. And that's what you found too. And you're probably like in the aisle, like, what is this? Like,
yeah, it was crazy. We took, after kind of this revelation, we took a trip to a Target in Buffalo, one of those massive Targets, and we were kind of standing at a corner aisle, and it was like on our left was this entire aisle of men's skincare, like eye creams for men, things that didn't exist 10 years ago. And then on our right was the condom aisle, and it just looked stagnant. It looked exactly the same with all the things you're saying. And before doing this trip, we looked into it, and STIs are actually at the highest levels in history. And nobody really knows that. It's predominantly between the ages of 15 to 25. So what we understood was, we have a background, we've had a design company for over 10 years in Toronto. We do all kinds of design for big corporations, small corporations, startups, lots of packaging projects.
Real estate agents.
Lots in the real estate spectrum, actually. But and what we understood is, it matters how things are designed, how they're communicated, how you understand a product, whether you incorporate it into your life. So knowing young people, 15 to 25, understanding what this product looks like, understanding where it's sold, we understand why they're not buying it. So what we kind of saw...
Well, that's interesting. Sorry to interrupt, because I would have thought that you were designing a product for your own particular use, but you actually decided like, hey, there's a bigger market here or a different market here, a younger one.
Well, I think we knew, it came from a personal desire, but we also knew that it mattered for a demographic beyond us, particularly young folks, marginalized communities, the LGBTQ plus space. There were so many that were overlooked beyond our demographic. We knew we had to cast a wider net and go younger so that we can actually create change in perception and how people relate to condoms.
It's such a simple idea. Like, how did no one come up with this before? Because we've seen changes in simple things like toothpaste.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
the toothpaste market has gone bonkers like that. Like, and I still think there's room for growth there. But like something like that, and you think condoms, like,
well, that's what we talk about, right? So
brainer.
that's the world the young person's growing up in, where your toothpaste has been designed and it looks good on your counter and it fits into your lifestyle. But condoms
says something about you.
It says something about you, exactly. Whereas condoms are something that doesn't fit into that at all, and it's something that you're tucking into your bottom drawer because you're horrified for it to be with the rest of your shelf.
Right.
So, we understood that, and we understood that if you could design something that was beautiful and sell it in places, maybe in the existing places where you can buy condoms, but also in other places, front of house, in bars, in cafes, in boutique shops.
Nothing like getting a cappuccino and a condom to
well,
go.
You know what? We talk a lot about, we were inspired very much by what's happened in the sunscreen world. So sunscreen, even 15 years ago, was something that they sold bottom shelf in a drugstore. There was a few brands. You bought it before summer vacation, maybe before your kids went to camp. And otherwise, it was something you didn't think about all year. Whereas actually Supergoop kind of relaunched it as something that was an essential to your everyday, as a part of your skincare. It's very much now associated with beauty. So it's what we want with condoms. We think there's something that you should have as a part of your everyday, and that every person, be it no matter what sexuality or gender, should be carrying them and be responsible for them. And we think it matters, how it's designed, what it looks like, and where it's sold to be a part of that.
So you're in the aisle, you have your aha moment. It's a pretty taboo topic, in all honesty.
For sure.
Like, what happens? You go to your friend first, you go to your husband first, you go to your parents first. Like, what's that conversation like? Like, I'm thinking I'm going to start a condom company. I imagine it's a little awkward.
You call your business partner, right? It was like, yeah.
Your current business partner, so you go there first, and you're like, I think we should do this.
I remember the phone call.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. The truth of the matter is, everyone we talk to about it, whether it's our 80-year-old grandparents or...
We're having condom conversations with our 80-year-old.
And here's the thing, it's one of those things where if you bring up the conversation, everyone understands it. So if you're brave enough to bring it up, people get it. People understand the need for change, and people understand that young folks deserve better than what's currently offered. We have had similarly positive experience with retailers. There's not one retailer we've talked to who hasn't fundamentally seen the white space in this industry. So it's certainly one of those things where, you know, when we bring it to light, people will say, you're right, how come this hasn't changed? Why is this like this? Why do we accept condoms that look and say these things on the packaging?
So you did some research first and realized like there is true white space here.
We did.
Okay, but it can't just be that easy. Like obviously you guys are in design. The packaging was probably something that spoke to you right away, but we need a condom designed. Like where does a person even go? Do you just Google like where to get condoms made? Like what do you do?
I mean, again, like through what we've been doing for over 10 years, we have some sense of like how manufacturing processes and things work. So we knew the bare minimum of how to start like looking out. And because it's something like condoms, which is a class 2 grade medical device, and it has to be Health Canada, it has to be FDA, you know, so we actually just looked, we wanted to go with the most reputable manufacturer in the world. So once we'd found them, and it's like all the rubber is grown in Asia. So the rubber factories are in either really Thailand or Malaysia.
So no matter what condom you're buying.
No matter, I mean, that's just where the rubber trees
Got it.
are.
Okay.
But even if there's a manufacturer outside of that region, they're still bringing in rubber from that part of the world.
Yes.
So what's the difference? Because I know you said you're celiac. So obviously gluten. Is there gluten in condoms? Like is that a normal thing?
There can
Maybe
be.
that's a stupid
There
question.
can be. There's preservatives, flavors, colorings. You know, some of the marketing tactics of condoms have been to make them more appealing, and those things that make them appealing can add different kinds of ingredients.
It's always the fun things that are never good for you, right?
The problem is they're just not listed. So when this was something that we learned as well, we looked at all the alternatives out there and we tried to understand what the ingredients were, and they're not required to list them. And that's something we also tackled, where we wanted the ingredients to be front and center, because we want young folks to really understand what's going in around on their bodies. And so that was a huge distinguishing factor for us as well, to kind of create some education around what ingredients are in our condoms and why we've chosen what
Yeah, and I have a package behind me so we can actually show this, because I mean, first of all, how cute is this packaging, right? Like it's gender neutral or not gender specific. I feel like people like it's cool. It's got like a vibe to it. And obviously you have your ingredients and all the information here on the side. So you're just letting people know. And you know, it's interesting. You added the educational component. I think I read on your website that you call it sexpertise. Is that right?
expansive
Sexpansive. Oh, jeez. Sexpansive education. I probably wrote this here. I just didn't take the time to look down. Tell me about that. Like, why was that really important to you guys to have that as part of it versus just having a product and hoping people buy it?
Yeah, so I think that, you know, the product is half of it, and then there's, you know, something as little as the instructions in most condoms, and even unfortunately ours, because it's a FDA legal requirement, is the way in which sex is talked about is between a man and a woman, and sex is deemed over when a man ejaculates. And that's a very narrow view on who's having sex and how they're having sex. And that's something
I mean, it feels like we're being taken back to like the 50s here.
Exactly. Wow. So, you know, so we, when we mail our condoms to customers, we have our own instructions, and it's much more sort of inclusive to bodies and genders, and we take a broader approach to what sex is and who's having it, and that's really important to us. So that's this idea of, you know, a multiplicity of sexual expressions and gender expressions, and the way in which we talk about, we are trying to be inclusive of everything as much as we can.
Yeah. Now, if you guys don't mind me kind of maybe getting a little personal, but you're both married to men and you have kids, right? So you're both cisgendered people. Did you have to do some of your own research, or were you guys just both really aware of the other communities and their needs of condoms and stuff like that? Or did you?
I think both, honestly. Like, I think we have lots of experience. You know, we live downtown in Toronto. We have many friends in different, you know, walks of life. But I think we really spoke to a lot of young people. I think we still seek to, what we do on our platform, on our website in terms of sex education is really try to bring in a diversity of voices. So different people talking about their experience so that it's really not coming from any one of us, but it's coming from individuals that are speaking from their experience. So just to try to give a platform to different people. And fundamentally, condoms are still the best barrier against STIs and a whole host of other issues. As a product that should be for everyone.
Okay, so I want to go back to, I'm still just so curious. So we decide we want to start this company. We know that there's a lot of white space here. What's the conversation like with your husbands, who I imagine are both career-oriented men? They have jobs. You guys already have a business.
Yes.
You were both mothers.
Yes.
So it's not like you had a lot of free time on your hands.
No, we were both pregnant during the pandemic as well.
And pregnant. So
Yeah.
we're pregnant with one kid also both of you had at the time?
two at the
You
time.
had two at the time. So like we had a lot going on.
Yes.
And now you're like, let's add another
Yes.
amazing thing. Because starting, a consumer goods company
Yeah.
is not an easy thing. Was
Yeah.
that difficult for them to understand or for you to sell it to them? Was it easy?
No, I feel like
They're both have always been huge supporters and have supported our career up until this point and continue to. They're very much behind the scenes and always have been supporting us, and so they were energized by it. And I think they just fundamentally trust us, and when we get our brains together, they're like, okay, what's gonna happen?
you know what? We've always had this design studio, but it's like we named it Whitman Emerson. We loved it. It sounded like it's a mixture of our two names. So it sounded like a pseudonym of a law firm or something
Yeah.
weird. And we always knew that it would evolve and shake. So one of the reasons we originally started Jems was it was a bit of a calling card for our design studio. Like, look if we can control something from tip to tail. And it really has been. We've gotten a ton of work from Whitman Emerson saying, can you help us do what you've done for Jems? Now it's really become its own thing entirely. But it's not crazy. Like, if you know us, we've been talking about packaging as like a hobby for a million years. It's like, all text messages for the last 10 years about like, did you see this product? Do you see what this is doing? And fundamentally like care and believe, that you can make a difference through design. And I think it was one of those things, I really think we were naive when we were standing in that aisle and we thought, okay, we'll design this beautiful packaging. We thought, we grew up enough that, we saw like the late 80s, the early 90s, governments are gonna get behind us, we're gonna get all these grants, everybody's gonna be talking about it. And it's, for us, that's been the opposite because there's been heavily shadow banning online, there's been heavily all kinds of
because it's
censorship.
about sex.
Just because it's condoms, it's treated the same way that any sort of like hardcore pornography would be treated.
I mean, forgive me, but like I'm on TikTok and Instagram, and there's girls that aren't wearing anything, but you're showcasing a product in like a lighthearted way, and you're the one that gets shadow banned. Not that I'm saying that there's anything wrong with what they're doing. I'm just surprised. This day and age that's still even happening. So how do you guys overcome those things? Like, you're right. That's an obstacle that you're going to continue to have to overcome. Is it a mindset? Is it a strategy that you guys use? What's like tips to people? Because oftentimes when people start their own business, right?
Yeah.
I think we all do that. I thought this as well. I started a media company 2 years ago during COVID, and I was like, this is gonna be amazing. All the realtors are gonna use us, but I didn't know that people have to be also in the right mindset. Like sometimes the public has to be ready for something, and I feel like I was a bit too early on that. So you hit your head against the wall, you pivot, you try different things. Same thing for you guys?
Yeah, I think it's about being being very flexible, being very nimble, pivoting, when something's not working. I think for us, it's been about doing a lot of live activations and doing partnerships with other brands and other industries. And I think we do a lot of manifesting. Like we know exactly where we want to go. We know exactly, like who we want to be doing things with, and we just keep pursuing. And I think, we haven't let things like the censorship and the shadow banning really shut us down. We just look for another way that we can kind of access that audience that we're trying to speak to.
Yeah, it's funny in sales, because I work in sales, we always say like when you make phone calls, unfortunately as realtors, we hear no a lot. But what oftentimes happens with realtors is they hear no the first time, they hang up the phone, and then they never call that person again.
Right.
But no is usually just a not yet.
Yeah, right.
Right? I'm just not ready today.
Yeah.
I'm not ready the exact day you called me or the exact time that you emailed me. And I feel like that's what's going to happen here, right? It's just having that positive mentality of like, I'm going to overcome it until someone like literally tells me, like you're harassing me, please F off.
Yes.
And you can swear on it. I don't know why I said F off, but
Yeah.
you know, there's so much going on with the sex and the you know, I'm getting frazzled with my swear words. But you know, it's something that you have to overcome. Okay, so you start the business. Did it take a lot of funding to get going? Like, did you self-fund it?
We self-funded it. So again, I think the difference for us is that we had this super team through Whitman Emerson behind us. And so we had a great team of creatives working behind the scenes with us. We were able to, you know, I think again to Whitney's point that we had this naive, we can afford the minimum order, let's do this. Like we thought, that's as far as we go.
What's the minimum order?
Well, it's 288,000 condoms.
Your first order was 288,000, and what, do they get shipped to your house? And now you're just like going through boxes of condoms? Yeah?
I mean, we had a studio, but yeah.
Yeah, same thing though.
Yeah, not much different, yeah.
So the team that you were working with at your current company, obviously you tell them what you're doing. Was everyone like super excited on board, or did you have to
Yes,
sell it?
everyone was amazing. Yeah.
Everyone is, I mean, again, I think for us, we were pregnant at the time, it was the pandemic. We had another business that was truthfully struggling because of the pandemic. There was a lot going on, but we were also excited about this notion of changing this industry, changing the perception of condoms and how people are going to use them and relate to them, that it was something that I think was actually a beacon of light for us during this really hard time, and still is. You know, whenever things feel hard, it's like that's what keeps us going every day. So yeah, we did our minimum order, and truthfully, I mean, yeah, we've been learning and pivoting ever since, because none of us have experience in CPG. But we're a team that's used to sort of wearing many hats and being creative and persisting, and so
Well, I think that says a lot about you guys as leaders, that you can just come in with this new idea. I mean, obviously, the relationship that you'd built with your staff prior to this idea goes to show, because you were like, this is the way we're going, and they're like, I'm on board.
Well, it's crazy. Like we always say, we work with a team of unicorns. It's like everybody are these incredible people that, you know, can make up things on a computer that exist in the world, or build things, or, you know, it's a really nimble, and they're all people that have, you know, it's not just like marketing we do. We often are coming up with ideas for things or visions for things. So it's not so far off of what we've been doing for clients forever, but we got to control it, you know? So when people had an idea in the studio to this day, we're like, yeah, let's do it. We'll do it today. We're done, you know? So I think it's a really
Where do you find such
empowering-
amazing people? I feel like I have similar staff.
Right.
You call them unicorns, which is probably nicer. We call ourselves misfits.
Right.
And the reason we say that is
Yeah.
because like none of us would probably, like if you go back to high school, I'm not sure any of us would have been
Right.
friends in high school. But something about us all coming together now, later in life, and all bringing our unique skill sets somehow turns out beautifully. But where did you find like such incredible people? Or do you feel like you developed them a little bit over time as well? Like just caring about them and like treating them like
I think our
family?
studio's always been slightly different from typical design studios. I think we've always encouraged those that are really okay with self-starting and you know, not being micromanaged, because that's not our leadership style. And so those that have really thrived in our studio environment are the type to sort of take risks and put their hat in put their hat in and get their hands dirty and are willing to sort of take the plunge with us. And I think that's how
not the micromanaging. Like we've very much empowered our Whitman Emerson team to be able to lead the studio and be able to, you know, take on projects, and they're incredibly smart and incredibly creative.
So you guys like just have kind of some trust and some faith to delegate and say like, look, maybe if you didn't do something the way I would have, but also know that you need help. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to focus on
We
this
always
other
say there's
business,
100 right ways to do something. So it might be different, but it's not necessarily wrong, you know? Yeah.
So 288,000 condoms. Okay. Obviously that was expensive, I imagine, of outlay of cash right away. Was that stressful to you guys, or were you like, whatever?
It was totally stressful, but I think it was either like we were in or we were not in, and this for us was, you know, not a way to dabble. We were like, we're doing this, and I think it just set the gauntlet in this way that we were like, now we have to, you know, get into some real retailers. We struggle with the fact that it was like, you know, our whole plan was never DTC, and it was like the pandemic was like, okay, well now nobody's in stores. Nobody's buying things in stores.
Right.
So it kind of made us pivot a little bit to be like, I guess we're gonna try selling condoms online to start.
We knew that, worst case scenario, we would make a very generous donation to a health clinic with condoms, and we didn't feel bad about that.
Okay.
So that was kind of our
Like, it wasn't all gonna go to
worst
waste
case
no matter
scenario.
what.
Yeah. So I think that was kind of, but otherwise.
That's pretty admirable. Did we have to make some big sacrifices? Because sometimes, people will say you're living a certain lifestyle, things are comfortable, and now all of a sudden you're making yourself uncomfortable again.
For sure.
Which is how you grow, but at the same time,
I mean, we're still there. We've done a small friend and family raise since then, in terms of buying more inventory, in terms of supporting retailers and marketing efforts. But it's still, we're still bootstrapping. We talk about, we say no to more opportunities, and we're saying yes, and we have to be really nimble again and flexible with the ways that we market and support retailers. So it's, the money thing is definitely something that's a factor all the time, but we are very growth mindset, and we see it, and
I think we also Whitney and I have always thrived with limitations in a way, because it does foster a certain amount of creativity, or we believe that. And so even with clients, when we were given limited budgets, our goal was, how do we do the most with this small budget? And we're doing that with Jems too. Of course, we would love to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to be spending on digital ads to get the word out there, but we don't, and we can't. And so it's just about being creative and getting our brand out there. And I can't remember what exactly it was recently, but I said limitations are good, because it made us, there was something where we found a better solution in the end to what we thought we should do because of the financial limitation. And I wish I could cite
that's such a good mindset to have toward it. And it sounds like you're talking about growth mindset. We do a lot of that in the company that I work for as well. Just practicing positivity, like the things that you say to yourself every morning, even when you're like failing and it's not going right, or when you don't believe in yourself. Just saying those little things, like eventually, like you're gonna make it true. So kudos to you guys. You two met when?
We met at McGill, technically, in undergrad. We were friends. Although we've
in the same
since
program, I
found a
guess?
dance class. There's a video of us in a dance class when we were 6 years old or something. So, yeah.
Both grew up in Toronto?
Both grew up in Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah.
And both went to McGill for design?
No, we were both poli-sci majors, and ended up pursuing design after McGill.
Separately?
And both ended up in New York. And so that's where we regrouped.
Oh my God.
And started.
This is like meant to be.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
So you were in New York. Yeah. And then you started the company there?
Exactly.
Okay.
We started taking on projects together, but we both had full-time jobs. We started taking on projects. They went really well. We got more referrals, and then eventually decided to move back to Toronto and do it full-time. And so that's what we've done
So
ever since.
that's amazing that both of you have been kind of on the same page, even from like your business saying like, we live in New York. That's kind of like, when I think of design, like that's where I think of it happening. And then to move back home and to both be on that same page, or was one of you more on the page and convince the other?
We've
or how'd
both been away for a long time, and I had just gotten married when we moved back. Like, we were kind of settling into a little bit of like, where are we going to base ourselves for the next chapter? And we hadn't been home, and we loved the idea actually of coming back to Toronto and taking the experiences that we'd had living other places.
And I guess with design, do you still work for some of the clients that you had when you were there? 'Cause you
We
can
do,
really do it
actually.
anywhere, right?
Yeah, we actually still do, like 11 years later.
I'm interested, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but design, as well as obviously the condom company, I feel like they're slightly male-dominated industries. Is that accurate to say?
It's certainly less in design now than it used to be, but we talked a lot about that. We knew at the time, we both worked for incredible places, but we both knew at the time that we had a different perspective. And now looking back, we kind of have some acknowledgement like, oh, it was maybe coming from a kind of a female lens that was a bit different. We've always run our studio kind of a little bit different than the places that we were at. So yeah, I think at the time, I definitely think things are changing now, and it feels a little bit more representative, but.
Any big obstacles that you had to overcome in that space? Like, for me, I haven't really given it much thought. Sometimes people will ask me like, oh, you work with a lot of men, or sometimes you're doing something and you're the only woman in the room, or it's a conversation that usually men have. That doesn't usually occur to me, but I do find that other women point it out, and so I'm just kind of giving you guys the floor to say if that was your experience, like what was that like? Because maybe it can help some other people kind of like overcome it. Was there anything that comes to mind?
There were a couple instances where I think we felt patronized in the room. I think by virtue
with
of-
Jems specifically?
Oh, sorry, no. This was with
okay.
Whitman Emerson. Yeah, and it being, I think, 2 women and being on the younger side. I mean, we were in our early 30s at this time, and I think, we got a lot of you're just starting out, and
How can you charge that much?
yeah. So I think that happened, but thankfully, with Women Emerson, we've had some amazing partnerships with clients, like long-lasting, true trust, which to us is the key. And so I would say fewer than I think maybe some other people have experienced. We've been very lucky.
I think the only thing I would say with Jems that we've experienced is we get pigeonholed a lot as, Jems are not for women. They are for women, but they're also for everyone else. And,
Like just for women to buy? Or,
it often comes out that it's, for women. This is a product, we're selling condoms to women because we're women. Whereas it's not. We're selling condoms, trying to sell condoms to everyone. We happen to be women. Right. There's lots of times where we've had headlines on things that, the article is amazing and what they're writing, but it says moms, what was the title? It's like moms create condom company. And it's, in a way that in the entire interview, the only thing we referenced to being a mom was we were between pregnancies. But the fact that we were creative directors, let's say, before this, or have had a design company, like that feels like it could have been a headline. Would they ever say dads create condom company?
Well, that's a good point. I understand that. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's very clickbaity, I'm sure, and it helps. It gets the word out, so you're kind of like, you struggle with it, but you think, to yourself how hard you worked and how much you've earned it. It's not like, I was a mom and I was at home and I just was like, I'm bored, let me make some company. And my husband funded it and all these things, right? And that's how it somehow comes across.
Exactly. It just really wasn't like that. So it's usually not in reference to the article. It's usually just the headline that has the moms in it, but we've noticed that.
Interesting. Well, guys, be careful when you're titling this video then. We'll make sure we do it. We'll do you justice. Okay, you have a line of products called, or I don't know if it's a line of products, but like we're fucking old. Oh. Tell me about that, because I love it,
Yeah.
Because it has the F word in it.
The Fucking Old campaign was really about zeroing in on, so similar to the STI demographics, predominantly in the 15 to 24 category, also surprisingly high in the 60 plus age category. And so we wanted a way to talk to seniors about this rise in STIs. And the tricky thing with seniors is if they've left long-term monogamous relationships and then they're re-entering dating and hooking up, they're not as educated about STIs. And so we wanted to create a little bit of a campaign around Gen Z, their grandkids talking to their grandparents about STIs and safer sex. And
every Gen Z's dream to talk to their grandparents.
Well, interestingly,
I just think, like, I have 100, my grandmother just turned 100 years old, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I could do it. But, like, I'm proud that you're doing it.
I mean, Gen Z is a very different demographic. They're very open.
Us millennials are so damn old now.
Yeah.
It happened.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They're just a different demographic. They're the most fluid generation in history, and they're just more open in general about their sexuality and things. And I don't have my grandparents around anymore, but I had a different relationship with my grandmothers than my mother did or my father did. And I would say, even though I'm very close to my parents, I would say different things to my grandparents. So it seemed like there was some sort of natural something there between Gen Z, and their grandparents, that they could have this discussion. But it is funny, and there's lots of funny things that happen.
The packaging's really cute too, that I saw online. So, but it's not just the condoms. What's the actual product?
So it's really a campaign, and then with the campaign, it's this box that has hard candies with little funny stats inside about STIs, and it's this idea of like that's the icebreaker conversation starter for a younger.
Gotcha. So instead of Christmas crackers, we're gonna put these little.
Exactly. And then there's a drawer that you can pull out your 3-pack of condoms. So after you've had the talk, you can give your grandparents.
It's funny. We have to have the talk the other way, right? We're so used to older people giving the talk to their kids, and now we have to be going the other way. I remember. So my undergraduate degree is in nutrition. So I don't know how I ended up as a realtor, but here we are. But one of the classes that I took was a I had like only 5, elective courses that I could take, and one of them that I took was like a sexual education class, and they were talking about it at that time, which would have been back in 2006 probably. About older people are like having more sex. Well, people live longer, so of course they're having sex later in life as well. But also the fact that even on TV shows and stuff, they were started to showcase older people in roles that were like sexual roles. So I'm trying to think, what's the movie? We all know it. Not Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling. The Notebook. Right? And that was kind of the first showcase of like this romantic relationship between older people. But it's funny, I think one of the issues, at least back in 2006, and you can correct me if this has changed, was that oftentimes we think of like condom use to stop pregnancy. Right? That's most people's concerns. The irony of now being 38 years old and can't get pregnant, but my whole life I was taught like, you can get pregnant just by looking at someone, make sure you're protected. I mean, the irony is really not lost on me here. So I was just very conscious of it because that's what we're taught in school, like to be very fearful, less of the STIs and more so of like just teenage pregnancies and things like that. And I feel like that might be the problem when you're thinking about the older people, because they're like, "Why I can't get pregnant?"
Yeah, and I think that's the normal comment that you get.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think I do, and I think you're right about the cultural. Like somebody was telling me that last week that the characters in Sex and the City, the movie, are the same age that the Golden Girls are at the beginning, right? And it's just like,
oh my God,
your understanding of what you see them as sexual beings and you see them as not sexual beings.
Completely.
Like it's just a cultural thing. It's just
yeah. Well, maybe her, but still.
But yeah, exactly.
But I don't want to picture it. Still.
Yeah, but anyway, it's really,
lots changed in a very short period
Yeah, it
of
is
time.
really interesting. But again, that's the whole thing. It's the same thing with young people. They think AIDS isn't an issue anymore. They think, with the advent of things like PrEP and a host of other things, are STIs really an issue? Well, they are. There's all kinds of antibiotic-resistant strains of gonorrhea now. Syphilis is back. If you don't know you have it, it can be very dangerous. So the young people kind of have the same misperception of like what you need a condom for. And I think it's all part of changing the discourse and just starting to talk about it and be understood in a new way.
Wow. Okay. So I got a lot of learning to do, it sounds like. So I got to go back to my textbooks from back in the day. But I just want to touch on something at the end because I feel like this is so poignant often. And I don't want to hone in necessarily on the fact that you are mothers, but you are mothers.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that you're juggling. That along with 2 businesses, and just trying to like hustle and get through the world. How do you guys like structure and organize your lives to make it work for you?
I don't know if we do.
Okay, that's fair.
You know what? You kind of feel like you're never doing anything the best. I think that's the truth of the matter. Like anybody that says, you have it all and you're doing everything 100%, it's not. I think in a week when you're doing amazing with work, like stuff at home is harder and you're later home with the kids or your dinner has been ordered in or, a million things. But I think there is, if you have supportive people around you, both, in a work environment and a home environment, then I think you can make it something that is positive if it just doesn't look like what you always thought it was going to look like in a perfect kind of way.
Well, actually, that's such a good point. I think, unfortunately, maybe it was our generation. We grew up with this, the fairy tale. And we all heard this, girls, get over it. You watch some Disney movies. It didn't really ruin your lives. But you do have this kind of idea of what your life is going to look like. And it never turns out the way you think it is. And so just giving you that permission, giving yourself the permission to say, hey, I get that this isn't exactly the way I thought it was going to be, but it's pretty damn good too. Yeah, right? Totally. Just trying to see the positive in it. You two as partnerships can be tough. I have a business partner. I also have my husband. Partnerships are hard no matter what way you look at it. How do you guys manage? What's your tip maybe for some other people who have partners? And
I think that was going to be a little bit of my answer to how we are able to survive juggling all these things, because I think we can truly lean on each other to step in when the other needs more, space or grace, and that juggle between us is something that, for me, I know allows me to juggle all the things that I'm juggling. It's like anything. I think it's communication, it's trust, and fundamentally knowing that what we do together feels stronger than anything we could do apart, and having trust in that supersedes any kind of opportunity for conflict.
Yeah, do you guys like find that there's disagreement? Like, I want to take the company this way, you want to take it this way. How do we make decisions?
I think just like you think in a marriage, we talk about this a lot actually, but I think our goal, our alignment in terms of our values and our vision is always like steadfast and very on point. I think in general, we're not like, oh no, we don't agree on everything, on the little things, but what it is, it's like, I trust enough in Yasmin that if she believes stronger in something, I 100% am ready to default, and vice versa, and I think that's how we...
So it's like whoever brings the most passion to the table, kind of,
yeah.
Right? Because obviously it's important to the other person. What do you guys do in terms of like, I'm just picturing like me and my business partner, right? We're sitting in a room and, something comes up and someone has to deal with it. And we usually separate it by who we think is the strongest person to do that. Because you both have design background, do you both feel like you have the same strengths, or does one of you seem stronger in one area than the other?
I think at this stage, we've really, and we joke because I always bring up how codependent we are when I shouldn't, but our working style has really fused. So yes, I mean, absolutely Whitney has skill sets that I don't have, and vice versa, and we have complementary skills, but I think now we're so used to working together that it feels like everything, and this is even why when we wanted to come on together, because we feel like it's better for both of us to be a part of it than for one of us to be a part of it. So it's this very organic dance that we do where it's like sometimes we just know Whitney's gonna handle this one or take the lead on this, or sometimes I will, or we'll quite literally, and we do often draft emails together.
It's always been very intangible between us who's gonna pick up what, but for some reason it works. But I don't know if that is even something I would like recommend for everyone, because it's like you have to be, it's like some mind synergy thing that works.
It's like, I think at this point it's over 10 years of working together. So that's the kind of thing that you just have to put in that time, right?
With each other, learning how to deal with each other.
I think too, I think a big thing, which is, you the same in a marriage, it's like you're not scoring things. Like there's times where I've had a crazy week or something at home, and Yasmin's definitely picking up way more than I am, but you just, you don't score things. It's like, that's going to come back to you, and just sometimes one of us is picking up more than the other, and,
Yeah, so being able to lean on each other. It's interesting because oftentimes realtors get into the business because they, don't like working for a boss, or they say they don't. Turns out that they're not very good bosses themselves because they only have one employee, and it's hard to crack them into shape, but... I often say being in real estate is very, very lonely. And for me, it was really important to work with a team.
Right.
And I would have never even considered starting a company on my own. So me personally, I think having that partnership, being held accountable to somebody else as well, being able to lean on someone. Sometimes, our own insecurity or lack of self-belief can get in the way. Do you guys struggle from that as individuals? Like what you said, sometimes something will come up and then I'll just know I got it. Like, where does that confidence come from? Is that always there for each of you? Or sometimes do you feel insecure and like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing? And who gave us a business? Like, okay.
All the time. But you go ahead.
No, I think that's why doing it together is, I could not imagine doing it alone. I would never do it alone. And I think, obviously it's nice to ride the highs with somebody, but more importantly, it's taking on the lows with somebody that I think is, for me anyways, so
I was
necessary.
Literally going to say the same thing. Yeah. Just
I always say you can tell a lot about somebody not by how they act, when things are going well, but how they act when things aren't going well. Yes. And I think you see that a lot in business relationships and how people deal with each other when things are stressful and money's tight, or you didn't land a client, or things just aren't going your way. So kudos to you guys for working it out and for bringing such an amazing product, I think, to the market. I want to give the floor to you because I touched on some things that I thought might be important to me and perhaps my audience, but maybe I missed something that is very glaring to you guys, whether it be about the company specifically and what you want people to know about it, or just about your journey and maybe inspiring people like to take action and start a company on their own.
I don't know. I mean, I feel very passionate all the time about people starting their own companies. I really think that, you know, if you have something that's like calling you inside, you have to follow it because you think, oh, everybody must have this. And I think not everybody does. Like, I think the security of jobs are very appealing too. And, you know, certainly been time over the years where it's like, why am I not doing that?
I could use some job security.
But we say all the time, you know, again, like we're very into sort of manifesting what we know where we will be. But I think the difference between those that do and those that don't are only the difference between those that do and those that don't. There's no magic secret sauce. I think it's just putting in the work and doing it every day and just knowing a strong belief that you will get to where you want to be.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you. And you? You're like, oh shit, she stole it. No.
That was perfect.
Oh, as I drop the condoms on the ground. Well, while because I got another box here. What you know, let's just end on this because I think your packaging's really cute. But like you have like the soft case holder. Tell me about that. Is that inside of here?
No, it's a separate
okay.
item, and it's basically it's an education piece that we're sort of trying to get out there. This idea of how to carry condoms because we want people to not put them in their back pocket or
in their wallet. Yeah.
Months and months. I mean, hopefully you're not keeping it there for months and months.
Well, it depends.
The soft case is really about storing condoms well.
Where am I supposed to put this on my keychain and like?
Yeah,
it
just
around?
keep it
It
in
looks
your
like a
purse.
keychain.
It's a way in which also we're having conversation with retailers on how you can merchandise condoms differently too. So how do we go beyond the condom aisle? And one of the ways is to have these cases that feel like a little bit more of a lifestyle play, but actually store
Carrying your condoms proudly.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to leave it there because I think that's the best message for us to all walk away with. I'm happy to have had this conversation with you guys. I really appreciate you coming. And for anybody who's watching, we're going to make sure that we link the website so you can see where to buy these things. And then make sure that you're having these very important conversations. Ladies, thanks so much for being with me.
Thank you for having us.
And we'll see you next time.